Most podcasters don't know about dynamic ad insertion or DAI when they first launch their podcast, which means they've already released several episodes that aren't formatted for dynamic ads. If that's you, don't worry, it's all good. We have a video called Creating Ad Markers for Your Podcast Episodes that talks about how to add those ad markers to episodes you've already released. Be sure to watch that video if you haven't already. It is important for all of your episodes to be formatted for DAI, both episodes you've already released as well as the new episodes. In this video, we're going to focus on how to format new episodes for dynamic ads. Let's approach this from a listener's perspective. We don't want ads to seem as if they're coming out of nowhere, right? Whenever possible, the transition into an ad should be seamless. You can't really do that with episodes that have already been released because that would require you to go back and physically edit the file. It's not usually an effective use of your time or money. But as we create new episodes, we can finesse these transitions into our ads and make them sound great moving forward. The general rule of thumb in podcasting is you can have one mid-roll ad per 15 minutes of content. I recommend taking fewer breaks and doubling up on your ads in a single break because it's usually a better experience for your listener. Where should you put these breaks or ad markers in your podcast episodes? Think about the format for your podcast. Where are the natural breaks or places where pausing the content makes more sense? Where are the areas where the content changes slightly? Those are the best places to add ad markers. For example, one place I typically put ad markers is after I welcome people to the show and give them an idea of what the episode is going to be about. After I do that, the next thing I do is introduce my guest. That's a good place for an ad marker because the subject of what I was talking about just changed. Also, if your podcast has any built-in segments, then using ad markers in between segments is also a great idea. If it's a longer segment, let's say an interview, you can also take a break in your interview. After you wrap up your interview and before you say goodbye, that's also a good place for an ad marker. It really just depends on the format of your show. If you want, you can also toss to a break or add a music transition going into the break to help it flow even better. Now, tossing to the break, that phrase, that means someone says something like, "Hey, we'll be right back after this quick break." It sounds something like this. So I'm going to share with you what I do when I'm creating new podcast artwork and how I make sure that it actually works for the podcast. We will get started right after this quick break.
Smoothie King asks, what's that sound?
With dynamic ads, you may not always have ads running, so I don't recommend saying something like, "Now, a word from our advertiser," or "a word from our sponsor," because if an ad doesn't play, that's going to sound really silly, right? But if you just keep it simple and say, "Now, here's our break," well, that makes a little bit more sense. Music can be used in a couple of different ways. You can just insert some sort of audio transition, like a sound effect. It could sound something like this. Okay, so I do have some free stuff for you as well. More on that after this quick break. So you got your free podcast release form, or you can use background music leading up to the break. Both are indications to your audience that a break is about to happen. You want to separate your content from your ads as much as possible so you don't mislead your audience. And it's okay to switch things up in a single episode. Maybe you toss to your first break, and then for the other breaks, you just have some sort of music transition. It's totally up to you. Personally, I like switching it up, so I'm not always saying the same thing. Just make sure you have the same amount of ad markers in all of your episodes, your older episodes and your new episodes moving forward. That's going to be important when working with advertisers because they want to know how many downloads or impressions you can give them. And if not all your episodes are formatted for DAI with the same number of ad markers in all the episodes, you're going to have a hard time giving them an accurate number. For more information on how we at Independent Podcast Network can help convert your podcast to dynamic ads, and we can help sell advertising for your show as well, click the link in the description.